You wonderful. Thank you.
Perfect. And again, if you have questions for Shira as she presents, please put them in chat, address it to everyone. Ann and I will be, going over her questions and presenting them to Shira when she has a good break in her presentation. So take it away, Shira.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right. So here to talk about branding. Branding. Why are we talking about branding? Is a job search. Well, guess what? The two are very synergistic. And for anybody on this call that has anything to do with the marketing world, you know what I'm about to talk about. So the world of branding, right, is really all about the world of creating value for someone. Not a logo. It's not all the creatives. I mean, it is that too, but it's really all about creating value. And why do I talk about that? Because when you are presenting yourself as a job seeker, that's literally what you are offering to the employer community. You're offering your value to help them solve their organizational challenges. And if you've ever been a hiring manager, you know what I'm talking about. Because when you have tried to hire people, you're looking for people who can solve those challenges, that can provide value. And different organizations do this in different ways, and different job seekers do this in different ways. And what I want to start out with is actually a corporate view, okay? And I want to bring up a few little logos for you, because these logos are not about the logos. It's actually what this organization represents. So when you think about this logo, everybody knows what this logo is, okay? I want you to put into chat, in fact, Jody or Ann, if you can just kind of quickly kind of go through the chat, I want you to put in 1 or 2 words when you think of this logo. What is the brand value? What is the value that this organization brings? Just quick. And we'll just sort of read off a few. Jody and Ann, just let me know.
Yes, just okay. Quality, Apple, quality products, top flight computers, lots of technology, Apple tech, global, expensive,
Right.
communication, good, cutting edge, innovative.
Cutting edge, innovative, right? Yeah, exactly. Those are some of the things, probably easy
Steve Jobs.
to use, all those things. Okay, so that's sort of some of the value that they're trying to bring. What about this group? What do you think? What's the value when you think about them? What are some others?
I think okay, wait, I'm trying to healthy, quality, animal friendly, natural product,
right?
Healthy, creative, innovative, natural, simple, eco-friendly, toothpaste, specialty, health conscious, healthy, purple.
Health, right? Environment,
okay, wholesome, no preservatives, and healthy. Alternative.
Exactly. Alternative, right? So far we have 2 different companies, both very well known, have completely different values. And let's go with the third one. Put in some stuff in the chat.
Okay, expensive, elite, fashion, quality, mall, rich, expensive but elite, elegance, old school, no longer relevant. Upscale. That's interesting. Great customer service. Shoes in my size.
Yeah. And by the way, that one, the customer service one is actually what Nordstrom at least used to be really
used to be. Yes.
Used to be. I know things have changed. I should probably update my images here. But the point is that at the time, that was, so you have innovative, you have healthy, you have customer service. We could go on and on. These are 3 different companies. They're all very established and all have very distinct brands in their community. So do you. All right. So let's talk about what is a personal brand. And I'm going to read this to you, and I'm going to read it and emphasize certain words here in this little narrative. Personal branding. It's a way of clarifying and communicating what makes you different and special, and using those qualities to guide your career or business decisions. It's about understanding your unique attributes, strengths, values, passions, using them to separate yourself from your competitors or your peers or other job seekers, the other 5 people sitting in that hot seat in the interview. You all are qualified. What makes you unique and special? In this sense, personal branding means clearly communicating the unique promise of, ready? Value. Again, value that you have to offer to your employer or your clients. So we're going to talk today a little bit about what it's in a brand, how do you brand yourself, and specifically how you leverage your brand in your resume and your LinkedIn, which is sort of the 1-2, right? We all know this. In fact, that's why as a career coach and as a resume writer and LinkedIn profile creator, so many people come to me for those 2 things, because Because most people are like, how do I do my resume? What do I put on my LinkedIn profile? What do I put in my headline? What's in my pitch? All of those things. These things have there's a sort of a methodology that you can use around this. And we're going to talk about some of that today to think about what are the problems that you can uniquely help people solve, but what are the skills and experiences that you have to solve those problems. And so the first thing I want to do is talk about these three areas: your superpowers, your community, and your lane. What is it? What do I mean by that? So your superpowers. I believe everybody's got superpowers. Everybody on this call does. These are talents that you have been using likely for many, many years to solve people's problems, right? You have knowledge, you have skills, you have abilities, you have experiences, you have accomplishments, things that you've done that really stand out, all right? And I'm going to take you through an exercise in just a bit that's going to help us sort of elucidate some of those superpowers. But I want you to be thinking about the talents that you have. And then I have this concept called community and lane. What does that mean? So when people think about their job search, they sort of think of it usually in a sort of a jumble. Well, I kind of do blah, 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 and I'm sort of looking for this kind of job. Actually, I want to help you break this out. Community and lane. Your community, this is language that I kind of came up with. Your community is the industry, mission, or sector that you serve. Now, some of you have a defined community and some of you don't, and that's fine. But here's what I mean by that. There are some of you who have specialized and or want to specialize in an industry, mission, or sector. So maybe your industry, mission, or sector is the environmental sector, commercial real estate, financial services, government contracting, higher education, associations, right? Whatever. If you happen to have that community expertise, you want to showcase that in your brand. Why? Because that community has certain kinds of business challenges or organizational challenges or sectoral challenges that keep that employer up at night. I happen to be one who's very ensconced in the association community. I mean, I work with lots of people, job seekers across the board, but in my recruiting world, I do career coaching, but in my recruiting world, about 98% of the time work with associations. If there's anybody on this call that comes from the association community, you and I could probably have a lovely little chat about membership, recruitment, retention, engagement, and board engagement, blah, 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 wah, 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 things that are concepts that are very near and dear to what keeps associations up at night, which is going to be very different than what keeps a consumer packaged good company up at night, okay? And so for those people who are in a community, when you can showcase your expertise, your knowledge around that community in your resume, in your LinkedIn profile, in your networking, it helps people know you're part of the family, right? And employers feel safer to hire you because they get that you get what keeps them up at night. If you've ever been a hiring manager, you know when you've been looking at a resume, oftentimes, what are you looking for? Not only someone who can do the job, but someone who comes from your sector because, again, they understand your business challenges. Now, some of you are not community oriented. Some of you are very, I'll call it cross-community or cross-sectoral. That's fine too. Let's just say you're a marketing professional and you work with nonprofits, you work with for-profits. That's fine. But to the extent that you do have a community focus, that's what I want you to focus on, okay? Now let's contrast it with your lane. Your lane is your profession or your occupation. It's what you do. The community is who you do it for, but the lane is what you do. And in the what you do, again, you're a marketing professional, you're an HR professional, you are an educator, you are a financial analyst, you're a project manager, all of those things, that's your lane. It's actually two different things. Most people conflate them, but they're actually separate. So in your resume, your LinkedIn, your networking, people want to know what you do, but they may also want to know who you do it for. And to the extent that you can split those up, that's great. But then you got to also repackage it together. So for example, let's say you have a resume and you are in the healthcare community, but you are an IT professional. So you may want to say at the top of your resume, healthcare IT professional, right? Or association membership leader, or a nonprofit financial analyst, those kinds of things, right? Where you can take your community and your lane and push them together so that people understand that you can not only do the job, but you understand, what the sector that it is. And one quick thing I want to mention about career changers. I'm going to make a guess here that at least 50% of the community of the folks on this call are career changers. I might even be underestimating that. It could be actually a lot more than that. And if we had a big Zoom screen, I'd have you all raise your hands. Very, very common in the 50+ community to be a career changer. So how do you change careers? I'm going to give you a quick overview of that. Yes, it's difficult. I mean, I'm not going to lie, right? Like there's just it's a challenge to do that. The reason why it's a challenge to do that is because if you're changing your lane or changing your community, you're a bit of a risk, right? To the employer that says, oh, I don't know if they understand what we do, what our organization does, or if they're going to understand the role. However, to the extent that you can shift one or the other, not both, very hard to shift both. But if you can shift to one or the other, you're going to minimize the risk of the employer. Let me give you an example. Many years ago, I was career coaching somebody who was an attorney. And let's just say he wanted to become a recovering attorney, if you know what I mean. And so what I did was I said, okay, what do you want to do? And we figured it out. We figured out he wanted to become a writer. Now, how in the world do you turn an attorney into a writer? Well, we looked at his resume and we pulled out every possible writing accomplishment that he had, because of course, attorneys do a lot of writing. We changed his LinkedIn profile to focus on in the about section, the kind of writing he likes to do, why he enjoys writing, that kind of thing. He ended up getting a job as a journalist with a legal trade publication. Notice what happened. He shifted his lane from attorney work to writer and kept the legal community. So that legal trade publication felt safe hiring him in a new lane because he understood the community. So you can shift, I would shift one or shift the other. Very difficult to shift both. Or you could do the reverse. Let's say you wanted to shift into another community. I know a lot of people right now want to shift into the environmental community for understandable reasons. So maybe you go plug into that community. You find meetup groups, you find associations, you find places where environmentalists are hanging out. You start swimming with those fish and let them know, hey, I'm part of you now, right? I'm interested, I'm getting it, I'm researching, I want to understand about climate change, this, that, and the other. And they'll start to trust you. And they'll start to feel, again, like you're a new, long lost family member. And then if you want to maybe keep your lane, but change your community, you can share with them how you can translate your lane skills into that new community. Okay, so that's my little speech around career changing, but I wanted to bring it up because I'm sure that for this is a true situation for a lot of you. All right. So let's go back into personal branding. There are 3 C's of personal branding. The first is to be clear about who you are and who you're not. Why do I talk about this? Because so often job seekers will try to be this sort of everything to everybody kind of concept. They'll sort of have this very, very broad brand, either saying just seeking new opportunities, or have a very sort of amorphous kind of a brand, because a lot of job seekers say, well, I want to be open, right, to lots of opportunities. Here's the challenge with that. Employers, and actually people in general, like to hire specialists rather than generalists. If you had a leaky faucet in your home, you would likely call the plumber first, not the general handyman. General handyman can handle a lot, but the plumber is actually going to know which bolt to turn quickly. It's the same thing is true with your job search. When you brand yourself more niche, more defined, ironically, you actually have more opportunities than not, because those are the people who are going to find you to be the people who can solve their unique problems. The broader your brand, the more competition you have, and the less people actually know what to do with you. People just don't understand. If you just give yourself a generic brand, they don't really kind of know what your specialty is, and that's challenge. Be clear about who you are and who you're not. Consistency, steadfastly expressing your brand across all your communication vehicles. So yes, that's your resume, that's your LinkedIn. Yes, that is your networking. If you're networking one-on-one, may even be, if you decide to go the social media route, letting people know in whatever way you want to express it. Let's say you go to networking meetings, even in person or virtually, that you are very, very consistent about making sure whatever brand you have, that all of those people know about it. And then finally, constancy, making sure that your brand is visible to your target audience. You can't hide your light under a bushel, okay? You can't just say, oh, I'm going to have a resume and they're going to come. No, that resume's got to get out there. That LinkedIn profile needs to be out there. You need to be networking with people. This is not a networking meeting today, training, but you need to be out there, getting on LinkedIn, using the search bar of LinkedIn, finding people who do similar things that you do, making sure that those people really understand how you can add value to them. Again, so making sure it's consistent across your resume, your LinkedIn, and social media, right? This is the sort of signature piece of this conversation today. I want to tell you a little bit about this. And I'd like for you all, even though this message is being recorded, I'd like for all of you to take a screenshot or a picture of this. So I call this exercise Passiontivity. And I use this as the very first exercise whenever I meet with a career coaching client. we're always first talking about the brand strategy. And the reason why this is the signature piece that I have is because it actually helps to define your lane. What do I mean by that? When you think about your lane, when you think about what you do, and you think about your superpowers, you want to be thinking about it in terms of where your skills and where your motivators intersect. So if you look at this document, what you're going to see is 4 different areas. In the upper right-hand corner, high engagement are the skills that you have where you feel like you are a rock star in those skills, and you love to do the work. Big smiley face emoji, happy camper. This is the work that's going to get you up on Monday morning. You're going to have a spring in your step. But you contrast that with the bottom right box, high skill, low motivation, which is stopgap work. Basically, this is the work that you're really, really good at, but frankly, you tolerate it, right? You'll do it, you'll be a good foot soldier, but really at the end of the day, it's not getting you out of bed Monday morning, okay? And the fact is this, is that actually, those kinds of skills should not really be a focal point of your brand. You want the high engagement box to be the focal point of your brand. And I'll tell you something, when you do this exercise, which by the way, I recommend that you go through it quickly, like take 5-10 minutes to do it. Don't overthink it. That you'll find that there are some themes that sort of emerge. I've noticed this. I've been doing this with people for, gosh, over a dozen years now. And I've noticed that what people put on their high engagement box and versus their stopgap actually has a lot to say about personality. So somebody in the high engagement box might put a lot of terms maybe that have to do with people, I don't know, customer service or sales or whatever, relationship building, which if they're going to have a lot of people-oriented things in the high engagement, typically in the stopgap work, I'm going to see a lot of maybe process or detail kind of work, project management and financial analysis and these kinds of things, or the reverse. Or maybe one box is more strategic and one is more tactical. The point is that if you really look at these 2 boxes, you're going to learn something about yourself. You're going to learn more about what drives you. And is it people? Is it process? Is it strategy? Is it detail? Is it all these different kinds of things? And that's one of the things I do in my coaching work is we take this and we unpack it. Literally takes like 2 hours. And we just sort of look at all the different angles, right, of what a person wants to do and what they don't. Now, I want to contrast all of that with the upper left box, professional development. Want to versus need to. Particularly for you career changers, this is a really interesting set of boxes. Because in both cases, you're not particularly skilled in these areas and you're highly motivated, but there's a slight distinction. In the want to box, you, want to learn more. You would enjoy learning more. It's something that you're going to lean into. Maybe you want to take a course. Maybe you want to do certification. Maybe you just is on-the-job training, but you're excited for whatever reason to learn more about these skills. The need to is the should. It's the have to. It's the, well, I don't really want to learn more about these things, but I've been told I should probably get better at, I'm making this up, managing budgets. Now, for those accountants on the phone, you're on the call, you're probably fine with budgets, but maybe for us communications people, not so much. The point is that these are skills you may need to lean into just for your own professional development. And then finally, disengagement, low skill, low motivation. These are skills, you're not very good at, you have no desire to be. These are the skills that drain you and are really opposite of your personality and opposite of your brand. Okay. And so if you want to do this by yourself, that's fine. If you want to work with just a colleague, a friend, and that's fine too. But if you do work with somebody privately, informally, make sure that it's not a spouse, your best friend, people who have a dog in the hunt. You want somebody who's objective. Obviously, you're welcome to work with me if you like. But the point is that this is a conversation that needs to be had with someone who is objective in your life, who can ask you deep probing questions about why you listed what you listed, the context in which you enjoy doing this work. There's a whole conversation that needs to happen around this that has to do with, again, your value and the kind of work you want to do and the kind of skills you want to contribute, and frankly, the kind of problems you want to solve. This is an exercise that'll help you get at that, okay? So with that, I want to actually give you some tactical, practical examples. So I mentioned I do resume writing and LinkedIn profile creation. I'm going to give you real samples from the work that I've done with clients to show you how this all comes together. So here's the first resume that I'm going to show you. Now this template, this is the work that I do. This is the template that I use. And you're going to see on these next 2 slides how this is all structured and why this is a little bit different than what you might currently have. So first of all, at a high level, I want to explain something to you. Employers, whether it's the hiring manager, whether it's the recruiter, whoever it is who's looking at your resume, They are taking it. I'm not kidding when I say this. They're taking about a 2-second glance. That's not an exaggeration. They have got hundreds of resumes that they often are going through, particularly if they're doing it online. You need to understand this. If you are trying to focus the most of your job search online through a job board, Indeed, Career Builder, even LinkedIn's job board, please understand that especially with remote work these days, within 24 to 48 hours, they're getting 1 to 200 resumes. Let me say that again. Within 24 to 48 hours, they're getting 1 to 200 resumes. They do not have time to go through and really, really read this document. You've got to capture their attention super fast. This is a resume that'll help you do that. And the reason is that it's broken down in a way that captures that focuses on what the employer is quickly looking for in the 2 seconds. The first thing is at the top, right? Is this, like I said, association, education, executive. Notice that there's a community and a lane in there. Association, community, education, executive is the lane. If you don't have a community, it could just be whatever the title is, but this is a career headline that speaks to the role that you're looking for. Please know, this and everything else on this resume can and should be customized because you don't want to have a generic resume anymore. It doesn't work. Employers are looking for very specific skills. They're looking for very specific qualities. You want to be able to have those skills pop out on this page, including and to starting out with your title, okay? This title matters. And you can tweak it right here and there to align with what the job is that you're applying for. You'll also notice there are keywords right in this text box that actually align with the accomplishments below. In fact, I'm going to go to the second page here. And I want to show you, right, that what's happening here is you've got keywords that are listed in the job announcement, that you also want to have labels next to substantive accomplishment stories. Notice that these are accomplishments, they're not job duties. The job duty part would be right underneath, right here, like what the under the job description, like the job title, right? You would have a little job description. But what real employers are really looking for is what did you accomplish? And if you label it with this bolded label next to it, you're making it quick and easy for them to scan down the page. If we didn't have these little labels, which most people don't, all you have is a bunch of bullets. And it's kind of like that Charlie Brown want, right? Nobody really can read it because it's just a bunch of text. The bolded labels break up the page and allow the eye quickly to scan and go, oh, great. I'm looking again in 2 seconds. I mean, nanoseconds. They're thinking about the skills that are in the job description. They're looking at the skills you have. Boom, boom, boom. Quickly, they can put you in what we call the A pile, which is the pile you want to be in, not the B or the C pile. Okay. So this is a very important thing to do. And you align the superpowers that you have in the high engagement box here with the accomplishment stories. Make sure this is a branded document that relates to the kind of role you're looking for. And then you customize these labels for the job that you're actually applying for. Okay. I'm going to give you another version. Now, for all the techies in the room, technologists tend to have lots of technology up front. And so remember back here had this tiny little text box with just some generic skills. For a technologist, this kind of thing is very important. Now, this is a help desk person, but you could be at any sort of, it could be in cyber, you can be in what have you, but typically employers are going to need to know your technical skills. And so this is a way to do it, to have a bigger text box that breaks up the skill set in a meaningful way. But the same bottom of the resume still applies, right? Even for tech people, you can still have substantive accomplishments with these labels. It's the same rules apply. You've got to have the customized labels. Okay, so that's my generic talk about resumes. I want to go into LinkedIn branding. So let's talk about LinkedIn for a second. And Jody mentioned in her talk about the Career Gateway that there is a LinkedIn training that goes on. I happen to be the one to do that. I've been doing it for a long, long time. And so I'm not going to spend my normal 2-hour session talking about LinkedIn right now, but I am going to focus in on just one aspect of it, all right, before we get into this. So LinkedIn branding. LinkedIn is used for a lot of different things, and most people have no idea how to use it. Why would you? Like, nobody's teaching you these things except for people like myself. Job seekers need to focus on LinkedIn because the page that you have, your LinkedIn profile, is your branded document. May I call it an advertising document? May I call it a website? It actually is a website. actually has a www dot, right? It is your personal website or your professional website. When an employer is looking at you, when your people in your network are looking at you, that is where they typically go first. Even before they see your resume, if you've come up in their network, they're going to go to your LinkedIn profile. And what are they looking for? They're looking for a bunch of things. Again, all in the 2-second glance. They're looking to see what's in your headline. The keywords in your headline underneath your picture matter. I'm going to go through slides here and show you things, but I want to give you a high level, right? The keywords in your headline matter because, number one, it's how LinkedIn uses its algorithm. When somebody's looking for you and they use the search bar, which is in the upper left-hand corner of your page, it's hidden in plain sight, but it's there. People like me, recruiters like me, will be looking for people like you. And let's say I'm doing a search for a director of marketing. I might put director of marketing or marketing leader or marketing something or digital marketing. I'll put keywords in the search bar. If you have those keywords in your headline, namely the role that you're looking for, you will likely come up on page 1, 2, 3. But if you have generic types of terminology, things like, oh, I'm, customer service focused, or I'm diligent, or those kinds of qualities, that's not going to come up because we're not searching for those terms. We're searching for titles. We're searching for roles. We're searching for functions. If a recruiter's looking for project manager, probably the first thing they're going to put is PMP, because they know that all PMPs are project managers, or at least should be, right? If I was looking for someone in public health, I might have put an MPH, right? Masters of Public Health. If I'm looking for somebody in cyber, I might put in CISSP. Or other kinds of concepts, not just certifications, but keywords that directly relate to the title. So your headline is very important. And then as you go down the page, your about section is important because if somebody actually wants to learn more about you, they're going to click on that about section and hopefully read something that's not just a bio. Hopefully they're going to read something that's compelling, that speaks to the urgent problems that you're uniquely positioned to help them solve. Your experience section at the bottom is basically your resume. And you want to make sure that you're cutting and pasting copying and pasting your resume into your experience section because you want some consistency there. Now, what I do recommend is don't pull the labels. Remember, there was those accomplishment labels I told you about? Don't pull those labels because those labels will get customized. But typically speaking, the accomplishments are going to stay similar. So you want to have a full, richly filled out experience section that has your resume in there, okay? So there's just a few of the ideas, and now we're going to get into specifics. Okay, so let's talk about things, why you want to expand your brand, okay? So first of all, it really helps you with your career mobility. Regardless of where you are in your career, you can move around, right? But in order to do that, you need people to understand the value that you create to your community. And if your LinkedIn profile is updated, it'll help people understand what your next move might be. You can also showcase your expertise, okay, especially if you do have, whether you're focusing on your lane or focusing on your community, the profession or industry. Maybe you have something to say. Maybe you want to showcase or spark some ideation. You have some thought leadership that you want to put into to create some posts, create some blog posts. But even within your about section, you can talk about some ideas of what you have, or the ideas that you have to advance your community or advance your lane. Let's say you're an association professional. Like I said, I work with a lot of those folks, and you have some real interesting thought leadership around how to advance, membership, or how to be a better government relations professional, those kinds of things. Your about section can be a great place to showcase your ideas, as well as doing some blog posts. You want to have a credible searchable profile. I mentioned about the headline. Writing a searchable headline, going back to keywords. The keywords, which also actually relates to the headline, having keywords that relate to your industry or profession. So for example, let's say you are in marketing. Those of you who are in marketing know that there's a difference between what we call B2B marketing and B2C marketing. Maybe you're a B2B person, not a B2C person. Guess what? B2B needs to go in your headline so that when people are searching for you, they automatically know that you're a B2B person, not a B2C person. Or maybe you're in digital marketing, or maybe you're a social media expert as a subsection of marketing. That's the thing that you need to showcase. It has to have keywords that directly relate to the title you're looking for, to the role you're looking for, okay? Again, making sure that you craft a compelling about section. I'm going to give you some samples in just a little bit. I mentioned fleshing out your experience section. And then this bottom area, using skills, endorsements, and recommendations. Let me just sit on that for just a moment. At the bottom of your LinkedIn, or actually kind of maybe 3/4 of the way down your page, they have this section called skills. Now and endorsements. But basically what that means is these are the skills that other people in your network believe that you have some competency in. LinkedIn will do that periodically. They'll sort of reach out to your network and say, hey, what does Jody know about blah, public speaking? What does Anne know about technical writing? I don't know, whatever the skills are. And your person will click and say, yep, Jody's in public speaking and does technical writing. Well, that may or may not actually be true for you, but LinkedIn is doing an algorithm, right, around your profile and assuming certain skills that you might have. I'll take myself as an example. I mentioned I do recruiting coaching. Well, in the recruiting world, which is adjacent to what's called the staffing world is temporary staffing. LinkedIn sort of lumps me and the recruiters and staffing people all together. So I've actually had skills that I've been endorsed for around temporary staffing. I don't do temporary staffing, but LinkedIn doesn't know that. They just assume that's a skill that somebody like me should have. So they go to my network and say, hey, does Shira know temporary staffing? Go click. I get 99 people saying click, click, click. I'm like, wait, how do this work? So I actually had to clean up my own skills section because, again, LinkedIn just didn't know. So the skills can be important if the skills that you have listed there, and hopefully people are endorsing you for, if they directly relate to your brand. It can help when somebody's doing a search. The more skills you have or the more endorsements you have, it can lift you up to the front page 1, 2, and 3. So for that reason, you may want to go ahead and look at those skills, add skills that you are relevant to your brand, and then you can have people endorse you. Recommendations is something different. Recommendations are people who are actually writing something about the quality of your work. It's the old reference letter, right? A lot of people don't even know what to do with the recommendations, but let me tell you what you should be doing. You should be going to former supervisors and former colleagues, sometimes former vendors or board members, people who know you maybe in an ancillary way, and ask them for a recommendation to support your brand. A lot of people will go after recommendations, say, oh, can you write something nice about me? Well, just writing something nice isn't actually strengthening your brand. It's just writing something nice. So years ago, I was looking at somebody's profile, I was doing a search, and the person had somebody write recommendation, and the recommender said, oh, Susie Cream Cheese, oh, she's so detailed and organized, blah, blah, blah. I was actually looking for somebody who's very strategic. Didn't fit me. Now, maybe she was strategic, or maybe she just had the person write something nice, but having a brand that says I'm detailed and organized is very different than having a brand that says I'm a strategic, creative thinker, okay? Be intentional. So if you reach out to somebody and ask them for a recommendation, be specific and say, hi, John, I'm looking to level up. Hope you're well, right? I'm looking to level up my LinkedIn profile. And I'm hoping that you'd be willing to write me a recommendation. If so, would you kindly, one of two things, either would you kindly include these skill sets, these attributes or qualities, this experience I have? You can also look at my shiny new about section for ideas, but I'm hoping that you would sort of help me to support the brand that I'm trying to put out there, all right? Be very intentional. And you can send them an email and ask all of this. And then when you actually get to the writing the recommendation request, remind them of what you're asking for. Okay. So help them to help you to support your brand. Okay. So now I'm going to give you some real life examples. I'm going to go back to this, IT person. So, by the way, having a picture behind your picture can be very, very helpful. And I'm mentioning this because, a lot of people don't even know what kind of picture they should put. So again, think of your community, think of your lane, and think if the picture you can find. By the way, you need what's called a royalty-free picture. You cannot just go to Google and pull off a picture. That's illegal. There's intellectual property rights around that. But there are sites. In fact, Jody, if you wouldn't mind, or Anne, if I'm going to mention a couple of websites, if you could just put them in the chat. One is called Unsplash, UNSPLASH, unsplash.com. Another one is called Pixabay, Pixabay. There are other ones as well, too. Those are just the two off the top of my head. If anybody on this call knows some of the other ones, feel free to pop it in chat. These are royalty-free sites. You can get free pictures, okay?
What was the Pixa, Shira, was Pix what?
Pixabay, Pixabay, Pixabay.com.
And the other one was unsplash.com?
Uh-huh, yeah.
Okay, great.
So anyway, feel free to, but point is, go look for a picture that is relevant to your brand. Now, please try to stay away from pictures that have to do with your geography. So for example, I always like to say this, for those of you on this call who come from the DC metro area, there are two pictures you want to avoid, the cherry blossoms and the Capitol. Everybody likes to put those down because it represents DC. The only time you should put cherry blossoms is if you're a horticulturalist, or put the Capitol if you're a lobbyist. Other than that, they're lovely pictures, but it doesn't support your professional brand, okay? So try to get something that's brand worthy. All right, here's another version of that, right? So here's a client of mine, Michelle Mason. She's in the charter school world. And so she used to be an executive within charter school. And this is like a lovely picture. I like to put this up. It's personal to her, but it's professional too, because it's showcasing her passion for her kids, right? This is something, this is the world that she's in. It's literally her mission, her professional mission. So she wanted to make sure that she had a picture that spoke to the mission that she has, right? I'm going to pulling up some others, and I'm sorry, these are very small now because I wanted to just give a smitter smatter. Here's Sandra on the left, and you'll see, it's interesting. These particular people, so they don't necessarily have the best picture, but I did want to at least showcase their headlines, okay, with keywords that describe what they do. So in Sandra's case, she wrote trusted advisor in contract risk management and corporate compliance. Contract risk management and corporate compliance is her lane. It is what she does. It would be directly related to the kind of job that she's working with. Yesman, membership operations executive. So membership operations, that's going to be her field, specifically the word membership. That's a major keyword for her. Now she has other things, engagement specialist, inspirational leader, equality advocate. She says sunflower power. That's actually her personal branding. But the word membership comes first because that actually is the kind of title that she's looking for. Or Dan Moss, environmental government relations professional. Okay, there's actually a community and a lane in there. He's environmental. He's also a government relations professional. Oh, and more specifically, not just GR, he's legislative and regulatory affairs. All those keywords matter within his profile. Okay, so I just wanted to give you some examples of what I was talking about. Now we're going to talk about the about section. All right. So I actually brought up Sandra's here, and before I read this all to you, which I know is pretty small on your screen, this is a sample. This is the work that I do. This is my copywriting style, and I'm sharing this with you because this is something to inspire you to write a narrative that is compelling, right? That speaks to the value of how you serve, not just a laundry list of your skills. This is an evergreen kind of an about section. Because you can keep this up there for years. I mean, this is not literally about your job search. This is about the value you provide as a professional, either showcasing your profession, your lane, right? Your lane or your community in terms of the problems that you solve. So here's what I wrote for Sandra. And yes, you can get a little quippy if you happen to have that writing style. An ounce of risk mitigation is worth a pound of profit. I believe that the path to sustainable growth is structured growth. As business accelerates, we need to slow our roll to detect hidden in plain sight legal landmines that can deter profitability. Warranties, limitations of liability, governing law and jurisdiction, favorable discounting practices, and audit requirements may sound like legalese. However, they are the bedrock of business scalability. Bonus, a solid compliance infrastructure can withstand regulatory scrutiny and keep the CEO out of an orange jumpsuit. It was funny when Sandra and I were talking through her narrative, she happened to mention that phrase. I'm like, oh, I got to use that. It's a great phrase. Keep the CEO out of an orange jumpsuit. Tools in my toolkit. So here is actually a section that would relate to your resume, because in your resume, you've got keywords, but now we're going to take some of those keywords and we're going to actually expand upon them to give like your approach, like how you do what you do, what's your secret sauce in the keywords that other job seekers might have as well. So organizational leadership, equipping people to be resilient and resourceful when faced with the unexpected. International compliance, helping businesses efficiently, expeditiously, and profitably operate in foreign theaters. M&A, drilling into our targets, contract obligations to ensure we're not assuming risk we can't handle, and so forth and so on. Okay, and then my leadership style: I'm entrepreneurially minded, creative problem solver, simplifier of complexity, team mentor, champion, legal lens with a business brain. Okay, so you can just sort of explain some of kind of how you show up, and then finally, reach me at gmail.com. Now, why did I put the link, the email there? You might be thinking, I don't want to get spammed. Guess what? You're getting spammed all the time anyway. You can hit the delete button. The reason why you put your your email address here is because it makes it easier for employers to connect with you. If you don't have your email here, they have to go through the formal process of hitting the connect button, reaching out. You might not see their message, This way, if they've got an interview for you, they want to meet you, boom, they can reach out to you directly. It just makes it seamless. Of course, you don't have to do this, but I want to encourage you to consider it because it just makes the connection process really easy. Okay. And then I'm going to give you one more, and that's the IT person. Even IT people, right, have a philosophy, have an approach, have problems that they can solve. And so here's, excuse me, this IT person. And there were a couple of things that really came out when he and I worked together. One was his customer service lens, and the other was his, what he called his cyber sleuthing skills. And so this is what I wrote. I'm an IT support professional who believes in the power of service. Technology is the lifeblood of business, hidden from view, but vital to survival. The lightning pace of change has fueled the need for reliable, rapid back-end support. So again, this is the problems that he uniquely solves. End users need a savvy and relational IT sleuth to navigate the maze of hardware, software, cloud, and cybersecurity issues, and they need to get back to work fast. So that's his why. My cyber sleuthing skills, right? So getting right into the aspect of IT that he enjoys. With increasing phishing and ransomware attacks, it's easy for end users either to infect their computers innocently or be overly paranoid about the threat. Thankfully, I know how to detect real incidents versus convincing frauds. When the threat is real, identifying and exterminating malware are my superpowers. Often when engineers are stumped, they call me because of my uncanny research skills and ability to pinpoint the keywords that crack the code. And because I know where the malware resides, I can hunt it down like a skilled marksman. Then my relationship building skills. De-escalating urgent support calls is about building trust. Here's how I do it. And then he explains the whole thing. And then his technical skills at the bottom. Now, you might look at this and say, this is a really long profile, Cheryl. Does anybody read this? Probably half of you are thinking that right now. Well, yes, under certain conditions. What happens is that when somebody's looking at your profile, there's sort of a methodology that they use. They go to the headline first. They'll quickly jump down to your experience section to see your resume. So like, what are the keywords? Like, what kind of role are you looking for? What do you do? Where have you done it? If those two things align, then they will typically go to the about section and say, now I want to learn more. This about section to me is the answer to that lovely question you all get on your interviews. Tell me about yourself. This is the answer to that question. And by the way, this is also in fact, I'm not sure if I didn't. This is a section that for career changers, this can be incredibly helpful because you can use this about section to tell your career changing story. Oftentimes I'll share this with folks when I do the LinkedIn training for career confidence, that I did this. There was one person I did this, actually somebody on the Career Gateway, a guy named Steve Pohorillas, he's given me permission to share the story, where he came to me as a mortgage banker and again, wanted to become a recovering mortgage banker. And he decided that he wanted to go into something called regenerative medicine, which is this very unique stem cell therapy that helps orthopedic injuries heal naturally. Anyway, how in the world do you get him to go from mortgage banking? Well, we ended up deciding to change his community, but keep his lane. What? Well, it turns out he wasn't just a mortgage banker, he was a salesperson. So what we decided to do was say, okay, well, what if you shifted into the regenerative medicine medical community, offered your services to a medical practice to go recruit patients, AKA be in a sales role. No one ever heard of this before, but he created a job for himself and he did a whole lot of networking. We did a whole beautiful LinkedIn profile and the whole thing, and he did it. He got a job. He didn't keep staying there just for other reasons, but he got it. He got it. And so I say that because this is possible. It is absolutely possible to do this if you are very, very intentional about your about section. All right. Okay, moving on. So a few other things that I wanted to point out here is that you want to make sure that your lane and your certifications are in your headline. All right. So not only what you do, project manager, planning, and so forth, but also your certification. If you have certifications, this is the place to showcase them because a lot of times employers are looking for that. They're actually kind of literally searching for keywords. Making sure again that you flesh out your job experience in each section, as I mentioned, right? Making sure that there's an alignment between what's on your resume and your job. I will tell you that this person decided to keep she actually kept those labels. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I would actually suggest to take the labels off and just keep the accomplishment stories. Just again, because it gives you a little more flexibility, but it's up to you, right? And again, recommendations, we talked about that earlier, recommendations that support your brand, not ones that are just sort of generic. And then also kind of like thinking about how to really leverage LinkedIn to build your network. And again, we could have a whole conversation about this, but think about all the different ways that you could do this. You can connect with colleagues and with other experts, people who do what you do, or people who are experts in your field. Why? Because those people are what we call competimates, meaning, right, they're competitors, but they're friends. These are people who might hear about opportunities that are not right for them, but could be right for you. So if you're a director of marketing, go connect with directors of marketing. If you are an environmentalist, go connect with other environmentalists. These are the people who understand your lane or understand your community. And those are the people who keep you in mind for things that, again, not right for them, but could be right for you. You can participate in LinkedIn groups. It's a wonderful way to expand your brand because LinkedIn groups are little fish ponds, right? They're fish ponds of people in certain lanes, in certain communities. You can start plugging in, you can respond to questions. You can actually pull down the member list of one of those LinkedIn groups, and you'll have a legitimate reason to go and connect with all of those people and maybe create some Zoom calls, right? For people, because again, you're in the same pond, likely you have very similar interests, and you want to let them know who you are so that you can be top of mind for them. You can write articles. Again, this is another way to expand your brand. If you have something else to say, if you have a thought leadership to showcase, on LinkedIn, on your main page, in the top of the middle section, there's going to be a button. It's going to be called articles. It's actually a blog. You click on it, put your headline, your picture, you write your blog, hit publish, and boom, there it goes right into your LinkedIn, into your feed. All right. And the other thing you can do is not just write articles, but obviously share and send posts. If you find articles that other people have written, repost it, add a comment, hitch your wagon right to theirs to make sure that you guys, if you're in the same lane or the same community, you're following their feed and you are making sure that other people know that this is the community that you're in. Okay. Okay, and this, I'm going to wrap up with this piece to share with you my contact information, but I also did that in another place in the chat, and I wanted to make sure that's highlighted. Hope everybody saw it. In that chat, at the very top of the chat, I'm going to pop it in again, and then we're going to get into some questions.
Yes, we have some questions for you.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Hold on one second. I'm going to put the following into the chat. All right, what you're going to see here is a few different things. So first of all, yes, you connect with me. By the way, I'll make this official. I do offer a 30-minute complimentary coaching call. So if you want to take me up on that, please feel free. That's my email address. I have 2 free resources as well. Well, actually more than 2, but two free groups that I run. Number 1, a group called Higher Moment Mastermind. We meet every other Friday from 9:15 to 10:15 Eastern. It's an open Q&A for any job seeker. It's myself and a couple of other colleagues, another career coach, another recruiter, and we just literally answer any questions that you have. For those people who want to stay on a little bit after the call, I also offer a short prayer call as a source of encouragement. Secondarily, for those of you who are interested in self-employment, I have another free community resource called Boomerworks, boomerworks.org. And we have monthly educational programs on all kinds of aspects of self-employment. We actually have one coming up this Thursday on branding, how to write a compelling brand story. We've had them on accounting and on how to conceptualize your business and all these different things. So you want to go to boomerworks.org for that, okay? For anybody who's interested in a complimentary conversation, I would encourage you actually to write me directly rather than use the chat. Just email me, Shira@purposefulhire.com, and I'd be happy to schedule a call with you. And please make sure, very important, everybody listen up. If you email me, please include your phone number. And the reason is that sometimes when I email people back, I don't know why some of my stuff gets caught up in spam. And if I don't hear back from you, it'll be nice for me to text you or call you. And so I can make sure that we're in touch. Okay, so please put in your phone number if you email me a request for anything. Okay. So with that, phew, all right, big fire hose. Would love to entertain questions.
Okay.
So
and Shira will continue with the presentation. So she's not leaving. So, just so you all know. Okay.
I'm here for the next half an hour.
Yes. So the one question was, do you put your current tagline at the top of your resume, and even if you're changing careers?
Your current tagline, I don't, the person's going to have to explain what you mean by the current tagline. I don't know if you, can we unmute the person, or maybe they can.
It was, I guess, if
what
you,
time?
Krista, this is, yeah, you can put your, if you want to further put your
Yeah, if you
question
can
in,
explain,
yeah.
explain what you mean by your tagline,
Explain.
because tagline
Okay.
could mean different things. Is it the tagline under your headline? Is it a mission statement? Is it a, like,
She said
I'd love-
the current tagline at the top of your resume. She said,
oh,
put
you
your,
mean like the heading?
yeah, yes, yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Right. So yeah,
And
so
she said,
that's,
even if you're changing careers is what you.
well, see that you have to actually have, that's a decision that you need to make. That's not an easy answer. I'm not going to give a glib answer for that one. That's a very thoughtful question, because you have to decide to what extent you are, like how much you want to lean into your career change. If you are very, very intentional about a career change into a new lane or in a new community, and you're leaning in hard, that is what goes on your LinkedIn headline. But that's a decision you have to make, because some people are going after what I would call a stopgap job. Maybe it's the current thing that you've been doing, but you sort of on the side are thinking about an aspirational career change. And if that's what's important to you, is earning an income and getting a new job, sure, you can put your current title on your LinkedIn, but understand that that aspirational thing that you're going into is not going to be visible. The point is that you don't want to have both, because that's brand confusion. You don't want to have the current thing that you're doing and the thing that you want to do, because then people aren't going to understand what you want. So that's why it's a thoughtful conversation. I'd be happy if you want to do the 30-minute conversation with me. I'm happy to coach you through that a little bit, but it's intentional. There's no what you should do. It's all depends on your personal situation.
Okay.
Okay.
What's better, select accomplishments or key achievements?
They're actually the same thing, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
An accomplishment is, well, something you've accomplished. And then let me give you actually a formula for that. People use different ones. Some people say like STAR, situation, task, action, result, or SAR, situation, action, result. I happen to like the one called CAB, challenge, action, benefit, which basically is the challenge the organization was facing, the action you took, and then the benefit to the organization. And you can sort of flip that around when you're writing your resume story. You can either say, like you could start with the result or the benefit, like what you accomplished, and then a sentence about how you did it. Or you can say the action and then the result. But the point is that you want to think about it as a story. So a key achievement or the accomplishment is all the same thing. And by the way, if you can put a metric in, numbers, percentages, great. You don't necessarily have to. You heard it from me first. A lot of people are like, oh, you have to have a metric. There's plenty of jobs and plenty of accomplishments that have no metrics involved. What you can say is broadly, resulted in increased morale or resulted in improved productivity or whatever it is, but you don't necessarily have to have a metric. But if you do, please put it in there.
Okay. What is your view of common advice to, one, show only last 15 years of experience, and two, delete graduation dates if older?
Right. Those two go hand in hand. Yes, if you are 50 plus, which probably everybody here on this call is, those are two things I recommend. So I actually recommend you'll hear different opinions on this. By the way, I did notice Kathy's hand. So Jody, after this question, let's go to Kathy. So I recommend to go back about 20 years. Yeah, could you do 15? Yes, it's a little bit marginal. I don't recommend only going back 10 years. That actually is a little bit too light for probably most people on this call, because if you're trying to showcase some depth of experience, particularly if you're going for something that's a little bit more senior level and role, 10 years is actually too light. I recommend 20. Could it be a little bit more than 20? Yes, but you don't necessarily want to go to 30, okay? The 20-year mark kind of keeps you in that sort of age-friendly kind of world. And then what was the dates of graduation. So look, take them off. Take them off of your resume. Also, you can take them off of your LinkedIn profile. And the way that you do that, I'm not sharing my screen right now, but when you go to your experience section, underneath there's the education. When you click on the pencil, then what you'll see is the dates. When you drop down on the dates, the top of the list says the word year. Click on the word year, and then the dates will disappear. All right. So yes, definitely take them off. So Kathy, I'm not sure.
I don't know if,
I don't know.
We're really not. If Kathy could put her question in, because we put it in chat and then I give you the, Kathy, can you put your question in chat and it will be?
Yeah, I just asked her to do that.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. I have some other questions though, so while Kathy's doing
Yeah,
that.
feel free.
We have, this individual said, every time I apply for a job on LinkedIn, it highlights the skills I'm missing. So I add those to my profile to stay competitive. The challenge is that similar skills are often phrased in different ways, and I sometimes worry that a long list of skills on my LinkedIn profile could be seen negatively.
It's an interesting question, and you're absolutely right about the synonyms. In fact, it's actually why I recommend, I'm going to address that question in a second, but it's actually why I
Mhm.
recommend with the resume in the LinkedIn, or not resume, but LinkedIn, with the resume, why you need to customize your resume, frankly, because of those synonyms. The example I like to give is, what's the difference between event planning and meeting planning? Well, yeah, technically there's a difference if you're a meeting planner on this call, but more or less, right, they're kind of synonyms. So if they say meeting planning, you say meeting planning, not event planning. So in those things on your resume, that's very easy to do. LinkedIn is different though. I wouldn't worry as much about the skill list on your LinkedIn in terms of all of the subtleties. You want to make sure that the main keywords that relate to the title that you're looking for, okay, shows up in your headline. About section is helpful, but it's the headline that's going to get you to come up on page 1, 2, and 3. Again, this is all very customized, and I can't give a generic answer for everybody, other than to say that you need to be intentional. Think about, here's the best advice I can give. Walk a mile in the employer's shoes. Very difficult for job seekers to do that. I know that because you're in your shoes. Try to walk a mile, frankly, for every part of your job search. Walk a mile in their shoes. They're the ones trying to minimize their risk. They're the ones who have business problems to solve. They're the ones who have title X, Y, and Z. Think to yourself, well, for the level of role that I'm looking for the kind of role, what are the kinds of key terms, titles, that most directly fit what I can do and what I want to do, high skill, high motivation, that relate to the kind of job title that I'm looking for? That is what should go in the headline. And it might be that you have different versions of that. But to me, that's the place, not as much about your about. Your about section can have a laundry list of skills if you want, and that's fine. That's good, especially for tech people. That's important. But I wouldn't overthink all of the different synonyms, because that's going to drive you crazy. It's going to be a little overkill. Just go for the ones that are as keyword friendly as possible.
And then we have another good question. If you worked in multiple industries, what is the best way to brand yourself?
Well, that's it. So that's where you're what I call like cross community or cross sectoral. Focus on your lane. Don't focus on your communities. If you've done multiple sectors, that probably means you're a lane person and you've got superpowers in your lane. Make that the focus of your about section. Make that the focus of your resume. Don't even worry about the cross, unless you want to highlight in your about section. You could have a little section that says industry background. And you could have like just a little laundry list, automotive, healthcare, blah, 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 whatever. You can do like a little laundry list for keyword purposes, but don't make that the brand. Just as a subsection, you can sort of like put the little keywords there just in case somebody's interested to know that.
Okay. And how do you manage a career change when the expectation might be that you should have more experience in that area you want to move to due to your age, especially when there are likely much younger applicants?
That is the $1 million question. No, I'm serious. That is the $1 million question. This is one of the reasons why it is so difficult to do a career change. I'm not going to, I can't, right? I can't give you a perfect answer to that. Here's what I will suggest. Because of those biases, because of the risk aversion, because of all the things that we know, right? One of the best, more seamless ways to change your career, in addition to, yes, having a really solid LinkedIn profile that speaks to your passion and speaks to your transferable skills, is to leverage your network. Because employers are so risk averse, if somebody comes to them who has a creative, a little eclectic background, if you go on the strength of your relationship, that employer is likely to say, I'll give them a chance, because they are referred by somebody who's trusted. Maybe that trusted colleague of yours can explain your background, enhance give a little more color to your background, maybe even create facilitate an informational interview where you can verbally express why you want to do what you want to do, the industry you want to go into. It minimizes the risk and it builds the trust factor when there's a trusted colleague in the middle. That would be honestly my best advice for that.
Okay. This is another good question. You mentioned that percentages aren't necessary. Like, as a sales professional, I'd like to communicate success by
That's
mentioning quotas achievements. Are you suggesting that one doesn't need to speak to the percentage
Thank
above quota achieved, or is it acceptable to simply mention that the quota was achieved or
Thank you. I am
overachieved?
so glad there was a salesperson on this call to ask that question. Okay. Because
Mhm.
what I just, my comment around that was actually for everybody but salespeople. Salespeople, you absolutely need to do all quotas and year over year and all that fun stuff. That's one of the few professions. I'm so sorry. I should have mentioned that in my speech. That it's basically required. Now, how detailed you get quarter over quarter versus year over year versus the quote, look, that's completely up to you. What I would suggest is that you, as a sales professional, they are hiring you for your ability to meet and exceed quota, right? And to blow the numbers out off the charts. So wherever and anywhere you can put metrics, percentages, all of these things, yeah, do it. I mean, again, I don't know your specific situation, but yeah, very
Right,
important.
right. She
And
was
by the
saying
way,
that
also one other, in marketing, there's a certain aspect of marketing, I would say in the marketing communications, digital marketing area, for people who are into social media and click-throughs and all of those things, like those kinds of metrics can be very helpful, and followership and whatever, but sales in particular is important.
right. So we have a question from a teacher. Yes, let me see this right here. I am a retired teacher. I've been told that our skills are transferable. How do I do this?
Great question. I've helped teachers. In fact, I'm helping somebody right now. So look, again, everybody is unique. What I will say very sort of off the top, but there's a lot more to unpack around this, is that teachers do have transferable skills. Some people go into corporate training. Some people go into curriculum design. Some people go into what's called ed tech, education technology. Some people go into education nonprofits. Some people go into the Department of Education. I mean, there's all these different things that people can do. Absolutely matters. What are your passions? What are your interests? What are your skills? What are your, right? And those are the kinds of conversations that I typically have with people, but there are plenty of teachers who've made the shift to the other side, corporate, nonprofit, and to public sectors.
Right. For many of us, our network is or has retired. Do you have pointers for how to rebuild a network?
Don't discount your retired folks. Your retired colleagues actually have plenty of connections that are still rocking and rolling. In fact, your retired colleagues can be a wonderful source because guess what? They got more time on their hands. They'll have that hour-long conversation with you, no problem. Just because they're retired does not mean they have lost their network. Now, if they've been retired for 25 years, that's a different story. if they retired in the last several, let's say, likely they can refer you back to a colleague that they trusted. So I would absolutely recommend that you do that.
Okay. What if I only had one job for 10 years? What would be the way to present on my resume?
Well, plenty of people have one job for 10 years. It's exactly the same thing. It's the model that I showed you, where you laundry list, you have your title and all of that, and then you have your accomplishment stories. For 10 years, yeah, I would highlight maybe five accomplishment stories. And then you just go on to your next job. I mean, it's perfectly fine. Now, if you had a job for 20 years, that's a little trickier because that takes up a lot of your resume, and you can still I would still do maybe 5 to 7. Although hopefully if you've been with an organization for 20 years, hopefully you've had more than one title. And if you have, then I would do the company, title 1, a few accomplishments, title 2, a few accomplishments. So it breaks up your resume a little bit by having title. If you had one job for 10 years, that's not a problem. Just again, about 5 accomplishment stories.
Okay. My recent interview included a new type of question from the employer. Specifically, they requested, quote, based on what HR told you about the position and what is on the website, please explain your understanding of the position. This this was clearly a test to learn if I did my research on the association. Usually the hiring manager explains the position to me as opposed to my explaining the position to them. Is this typical?
Sort of. Yeah, there are absolutely people who maybe not exactly say, please explain the position. I think what's a little more common is, please tell me why you're interested. But it's the same. it actually, and I'm glad this came up, even though this isn't about branding, this is actually about interviewing. I have a whole other talk about interviewing. But I think this is an interesting question because to me, this speaks much more to how much research have you done before you go on the interview? Have you really, really, really read the job posting? The reason why I put 3 reallys in there is because most people don't even give 1 really. Most job seekers, right, will sort of do that scan, just like just like how recruiters are doing the 2-second scan. Most job seekers do the 30-second scan of the job posting. Why? Because in your mind, I'm not saying for everybody on this call, but for many people, it's like, seen 1 job posting, seen them all. I've seen 500 of these things. They all look the same. Let me just go on the interview. Actually, no, there's subtleties and there's nuances. If you get called in for an interview, what I recommend that you do is thoroughly analyze it. Look at this if they have one. Look at the summary at the top of the job posting. What are they actually saying? What are they asking you to accomplish? Maybe they've shared a little bit about the recent history of the role or the organization or where they're going. What do they need you to do? Maybe even who do they need you to be? Start connecting the dots. Look at the first few bullets of the job responsibility section. And I say the first few because that's actually where the most important items go, not other duties as assigned at the bottom, but the first 3 or 4 bullets. That's where the meat is. That's where they're like, oh, I really want this person to have these responsibilities because that's going to align back to the outcomes and the deliverables we want them to have. So I'm glad for the question, but it's not even really about that question. It's more about the general idea of, are you doing your research to wrap yourself around the opportunity and understand it well enough to know, A, how do you qualify? And oh, by the way, are you interested? Oh, and by the way, are you going to be able to ask good questions of the employer based upon the analysis that you've done?
Okay. How do you determine what it is you want to move on to when you have so many skills and parts of jobs that aren't appealing?
Great question. That's why I do what I do. Yeah. So look, again, it's a good generic question. And what I would suggest is please start with the passiontivity. I have helped plenty of people who have that sort of either eclectic background, eclectic skills. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, even though I'm 60 years old or whatever. Use that passiontivity and focus in on the high engagement box in the upper right corner. Because whatever you're passionate about is going to come out in that box. Whatever you're not passionate about is going to come out in the stopgap box. That's the box you want to focus on to say, are there certain superpowers? Are there certain talents that I have where I want to zero in? Oh, I'm going to give you guys another tool. Write this one down. This is gold. Now, this is going to sound funny, but it'll make sense in a second. So I have this concept that I call ing versus ing versus and this is directly to answer this question. Ing is the skill, is the profession. Writing versus writer, event planning, event planner. Okay, here's why this answers that question. In fact, I think this is going to answer questions for a lot of you on this call. When you're thinking about your brand, ing versus right? Skill versus profession. When you're thinking about your brand, everybody's got a whole bunch of ing skills, things you know how to do. Writing and research, financial analysis, customer service, stuff, skill. However, for some of you, particularly those who want to shift into a new brand, particularly a new lane, you might have one or more of those ing skills that you love doing so much, and you have such an expertise in, you might want to shift it to an profession. So take that attorney that I mentioned. He had writing all over the place and he wanted to become a writer. So we airlifted out the writing skills, right? Repurposed them on the resume, did the LinkedIn profile. He did a very intentional job search to go find a writer position. It can answer the question that was just asked of Jody, because if you've got a whole bunch of ings, let alone a whole bunch of communities, you can use the passiontivity exercise to zero in on the ones that you love doing the most. Then you can look at that box and go, is there one that pops up? I'm going to give you one more example. So years ago, I was coaching a woman named Jacqueline, and she was a nonprofit executive. She worked for, a charitable nonprofit, and she was the executive director. And she came and said, hey, I want to do another executive director job search. I said, okay, sure. we went through passiontivity. And in her high engagement box, she listed, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 things in there. Board engagement, blah, blah, blah. And then I had her look at the list again. I said, hey, Jacqueline, are there any of these skills that you love doing so much that you might even want to focus on? And she took 2 seconds. She goes, donor events. I said, what do you mean? She goes, no, you don't understand. She goes, I love doing donor event galas. I am so good at it. I have other nonprofit executives in my network who ask me to help them do their own donor events. We laugh, we cry, the kids, the this, the that, the other. I said, Jack, I said, do you think like you love doing this so much? Maybe you even want to start your own business? She goes, yes. So humanimpactevents.com was born, right? But that was all because we took a hard look at her high engagement box and dove in and put the filter on it to say, is there something here that she may want to repurpose? So I'm hoping that's going to be helpful for whoever asks the question. Jody, you're
Jody, you're muted.
Okay. Yes. So, what if one is re-entering the workplace after 10 years, after a hiatus?
Yeah. So by the way, before I answer the question, I just happened to see in the chat help. What is the other category versus high engagement? High engagement is the upper right box. The opposite right below it is called stopgap work, which is high skill, low motivation. That's the work you tolerate. So high engagement is high skill, high motivation. That's the work you are great at and you love. High skill, low motivation is stopgap work, the work you're great at and you tolerate. So I just want to quickly answer that. If you've been out of the workforce for a number of years, look, it can be a challenge. One of those great questions, right? It's not an easy answer. One of the things I would recommend for that person, if you have been doing any sort of volunteer work, part-time work, anything at all that even remotely relates to the kind of work that you want to continue to do or what you want to do next, that needs to go on your resume. That needs to go on your LinkedIn profile. Now, how to do that? Again, you have a unique situation. Again, happy to schedule that 30-minute free call if you like, but that is a way to bridge the gap. But the other thing is that even if you've been out of work for whatever, you haven't been able to work or whatever it is, your LinkedIn profile is a wonderful way to let people know what's going on, meaning that you are coming back into the workforce. And here is what you want to do. You don't have to be talking necessarily about what's happening in those last 10 years, unless you want to. And by the way, LinkedIn does have a new section called a career break. So when you go to your experience section, you click on the plus sign and it'll say either add a position or it'll say add a career break. If you click on add a career break, a laundry list will come up with like 10 different career breaky things. Bereavement, I don't know, childcare, gap year, blah, blah, blah. So you can pick one of those. And in that experience section, you could do like a quick one-liner. Maybe you say, spent the last, 10 years caring for family or whatever it was. Okay. And by the way, if the reason that you were on a career break was because of your own medical condition, do not share a personal medical situation. That can be the cause for discrimination. But what you do want to say is something like cared for a family member. You are your own family. Okay. So cared for a family member and that's it. And ready to return to the workforce as of May 2024, something like that. But anyway, in the about section, that's where you focus on your skills, your passions, the things, right? The problems that you want to solve, because that's the area you want to think aspirationally. Don't think about as much the past. Think about where you're going in the future. So I'm hoping that's helpful. And by the way, Jody, I do notice the time and I want to be respectful. I'm not sure if we have a hard stop at 11:30 or if we were able to go to 11:45.
I believe it's 11:45.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Okay.
Yes, you're good till 11:45.
Okay.
Um, So more questions? Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. After 25 years in the IT field, I'm getting disillusioned with it. Before the IT field, I was in the retail industry. How can I change into another field?
Again, great question. That's a very specific, I'd have to do, we'd have to coach around that, frankly.
Okay.
If you wanted to do it on your own, again, I would invite you to look at the passiontivity exercise. I'm sorry to keep bringing you back there, but honestly, it's such a rich exercise and can help people in all kinds of ways. Go, first of all, think about your confluence of skills. All the skills that you have, first put them down into the boxes. The next thing that you want to do is layer on the community, because what you said was you went from the retail community to the IT community.
Mhm.
Maybe you have certain kinds of skills that can be repurposed in yet another community, but first you got to focus on the skills, the superpowers. Then you do a deeper dive and go, well, I used to use these skills in these ways, but is there another community that might also benefit? Go with the high engagement box first, and then look at other stuff. Again, if you want to use, colleagues, what have you, you want somebody to help you informally, that's fine. Make sure that they're very objective. I wish I could just quickly answer that question, but there's just so many
Right,
variables that I think, you would need somebody to help you with that.
Okay. What advice do you have someone trying to find a job from the West Coast back to the DC metropolitan area? I find that recruiters only want local candidates. I feel more comfortable getting a job offer before I relocate across the states.
Makes sense. I would say that was more of an issue pre-COVID. I'm not saying it's not an issue now.
Mhm.
Definitely pre-COVID more of an issue because people tend to be very focused on local geography. I'm going to make up a statistic. Do not quote me on this, but anecdotally, I would say that probably up to 50% of jobs these days are fully remote. Please understand that also means that you're competing with the whole country when you're doing your job search. So there is a downside to that. But the upside is it's those companies are not geographically centric. The caveat I would have is that some HR people are like, they don't want to hire people in certain states because of tax laws and this and that. But for the most part, for a remote job, it's really not a big deal anymore because they just don't care. With that said, yeah, I mean, look, again, not an easy answer. That you're absolutely right. HR people are, again, they're risk averse and they want to hire people locally and they don't want to reload somebody out, and you don't want to necessarily want to make a move. I mean, I feel you. This has been an issue that I've encountered for many, many years. The only thing I can suggest is this: if you are, I think you mentioned West Coast to East Coast. If there is a specific, and I'm guessing not just the way the question was phrased, but if there was a very specific city that you're targeting, oh, and by the way, if you have friends, family, or what have you in that city and are able to say to an employer, I am intentionally looking for jobs, making this up, in Washington, D.C. metro area. I have friends, colleagues, blah, blah, blah. That can help a little bit to minimize the risk, the perceived risk, because employers are like, look, they have plenty of experiences with people who say they want to make a move, and then 11:30 at night, honey, I actually don't want to move to DC. Happens all the time. So they've actually been burned, frankly, with a lot of people who say they want to very intentionally say they want to move, and then they just don't move in the end because it's a big deal to make a move. So I appreciate both sides of this of the aisle, but if you can help assuage their feeling, their riskiness, by saying, I'm very intentional, I really am committed to this, and like try to convince them, it can help. It's not a panacea, but at least you can help, give a little bit more color around your situation.
Right, exactly. These two kind of go hand in hand. You indicated that organizations are receiving 200 applications in the first 48 hours. Is it too late to apply after 48 hours? And also, when LinkedIn says that 200 people have already applied for this position, is this accurate, or is this the number of people that have viewed the job?
No, it's accurate. It's accurate. And this is why it is. And, we could have a whole other conversation around, in fact, we did actually, Jody, the last meeting that I led was around, or helped to lead, was around networking. Let me just say this unequivocally. The chances of you getting a job through any job board, LinkedIn, Indeed, CareerBuilder, or anything, are very, very minuscule. That's the reality. The whole 200 applicant thing, yeah, can you apply? Sure. But you have got to manage your expectations up and down. The competition is absolutely fierce. On top of which, and I wish I could show this to you publicly, I don't feel totally comfortable doing it, but I could actually right now show you on my end. I have posted jobs on LinkedIn. I could show you what it looks like from the employer's perspective. You'd be very, very surprised at what little information LinkedIn shows us recruiters about who you are. What it basically shows in like this little tiny section, it gives us just the headline of your experience section. I don't know if you can visualize this, but literally it's this big. And it goes title, and company. And then there's a button where we can click on the resume if we want to learn more. Basically, unless you have the titles and companies that relate to the role that we're applying for, there's nothing else there that actually compels us to read more and to click on your resume. If there is, then we can click and we have to download it and this whole thing. But imagine doing that 200 times, 400 times. I mean, it's overwhelming. Let alone a recruiter that's got multiple jobs and multiple, it's really, so think about that from a competition perspective. This is why it is so incredibly important to use your network. Over 80% of jobs are gotten through personal networking. I think somebody just put in the chat, Chava, I think, you said, you got it through word of mouth. That is literally the way that most people get their jobs. Please, 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 please do not spend most of your time on the job boards. 10% max. The majority of your time should be spent leveraging your network. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pull up, I mentioned free resources that I have. I'm going to pull up on my own website, pulling this link now. This is a page of videos. Hold on a moment. Okay, so this is a page of, oh, by the way, I think some of you have actually tried to write me privately. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to see that because there's been so much of so many threads going on. I'm so sorry. I won't be able to follow up here because there's just too much going on. There's 200 people on the call. Please, 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 if you do have a private question for me, make sure to email me and then I will do my best to respond. But anyway, so I just put in the chat a link to videos I've done for job search groups, including one of the LinkedIn presentations I did for the Career Gateway. Now, mind you, it was a couple years ago. That was the video that I had. In fact, Jody, if you could, if I could ask you just a little friendly tickler, if you could try to get me the last video that I did, would love to put that back on my website as an updated version. But
Okay.
anyway, in that presentation, you'll see all kinds of ways around, how to network, how to leverage, use the search bar, how to connect with people, what to say, blah, blah, blah. So I just actually not as much what to say, but more of the how to do it and the why to do it. But the last presentation, Jody, I don't know if that could be, or Anne, if that could be shared with this group, the one from, what did I do? Was it last month that I gave a presentation on networking?
It was.
So Vern Schellinger and myself did one on
Yep.
networking and literally that's where we went into scripting. How do you live? What do you say to your first level? What do you say to your second level? Blah, 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 blah. The networking piece is absolutely critical as an alternative to, as a supplement to actually using the job board. So I'm hoping this is helpful.
Yes. So we have another question. On LinkedIn, after you connect with someone, how long should it take before you let them know you are job searching? And should I be on Indeed looking for jobs, or is LinkedIn or something else better? And
so that it's two different, the job, like I said, job boards, I would just, they're all kind of the same, right? You can go to Indeed, LinkedIn job board, Career Builder, or if you have there's a specific, one in your industry, like in the IT world, some people use Dice. You can do it, okay? I'm not saying don't put your resume on, just pack your patience, manage your expectations. But what was the first part of that question, Jody?
On LinkedIn, after you connect with someone, how long should it take before you let them know you are job seeking?
Yeah, so I actually, you could potentially, depending on who the person is, you could potentially let them know right away. You only have 300 characters on LinkedIn to make that connection, but you can, can absolutely say, if appropriate, hi, so-and-so, in the course, you can say, during the course of my job search, I came across your impressive profile. I noticed looks like we might have some synergies here, would love to connect to whatever. But yeah, you could put that in there. It's not a problem. You don't necessarily have to, no, you can be straight up, but just be relational about how you reach out and show them sort of what the connection is and why they should reach back to you.
Okay. And this person reiterates, every position I've gotten has been by word of mouth. I knew someone or someone knew me. Networking is awesome. I mean, basically, yes. Does it help to have premium to reach out to recruiters directly?
You do not need premium to reach out to recruiters. Absolutely not. Premium, first of all, this is actually a really interesting point. Recruiters are typically open networkers, or some people call us lions, LinkedIn open networkers, because recruiters want kind of everybody in their network in that database. That's what LinkedIn is. It's really a database of names. So if you type in the word recruiter and then put the profession or the sector that you're in, it might be you'll find all kinds of recruiters who recruit, whether it's third-party recruiters like myself for corporate recruiters who work in-house. Sometimes you'll find us. There is not a recruiter for every profession or for every sector, but if you happen to find ones that are your, and by the way, there's technical recruiters all over the place. Then send them a LinkedIn note, a LinkedIn connection request and say, hi, so-and-so, I'm in your sector. Looks like I might have skills that relate to the kind of work that you recruit for. Would love to connect. 9 times out of 10, if you're the kind of person who they typically recruit for, they will usually accept because again, they just want people in their database.
Okay. Let's see. We've got,
This said
I
that
just,
it says that you need to be a premium member. Now, by the way, someone just wrote, Jody, can you scroll to the bottom? It says somebody said
sure. It
that you need to
says,
that you need to be a premium member to connect with recruiters. That must be a new feature because that is not my experience.
I
Unless,
try and send messages to recruiters and it almost always says you must be a premium member.
oh, wait, message
I
recruiters
try and send
or,
messages to recruiters
that's,
and it
I'm so
almost
sorry.
always says you
I
must be a premium member.
misunderstood.
Mhm.
Apologies, I misunderstood. It was a
Okay.
nomenclature thing. What I was talking about is connecting with recruiters. Literally hitting the connect button to Susie Cream Cheese Recruiter and saying, hi, Susie, want to connect with you, okay? That you do not need premium. What the person is talking about is actually nothing to do with recruiters. It's that if you want to send any message to anybody, I'm not talking about a connection request. That's different. That's me saying to Carl Cooper, who's on my list here. Carl, you happen to be, I can see you. Hello. So Carl and I'm guessing are not connected. If I wanted to connect with Carl, I would say connection request. Hi, Carl. Okay. However, a message is different. A message is LinkedIn's version, what they call InMail. They don't really use that term anymore. InMail is like LinkedIn's version of email. A message means you can write a long message to that person. For anybody, not recruiters, anybody you want to do that with, you do need to be a premium member. Here's what happens. If you get to they have like several levels of premium. If you're going to do premium, you'll want to do the second level. I can't remember what they call it. I think they call it Pro maybe. Anyway, it's the one that's for $60. And for that one, you get something like, and this changes, something like 5 to 10 messages or what they call InMails, 5 to 10 InMails a month. It's not necessarily worth it for that because, I mean, why would you necessarily need to send a long message to somebody? You could, it's perfectly fine. The other reason why you may want to consider premium in general is that if you're doing searches on LinkedIn in the search bar, which again, go to that other video, find out how to do all that. Then if you do lots and lots and lots of searches, then at some point LinkedIn's going to make you go premium. It's going to say you've exceeded your commercial limit. You must, upgrade to premium. They think that you're a recruiter or a salesperson because we're the people who do all of that, do a lot of searches. But yeah, you definitely need to upgrade to premium if you're going to send anybody a message.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. And I know what the answer is, but I think you should reiterate this. Is LinkedIn a viable networking vehicle or is it just another job board?
Hold on one second. I'm so sorry. I just saw somebody said, is the LinkedIn Premium the same as Sales Navigator? No. LinkedIn Premium, okay. Sorry, you're going to have to ask the question, Jody. Okay. LinkedIn Premium is just LinkedIn Premium. Sales Navigator, which actually I have, is a separate tool. It's plugged into LinkedIn. It costs $99 a month. I can't imagine anybody on this call necessarily needing it unless you're in sales or unless you're a recruiter, which means you're building your database and you can do really cool things with it. No, Sales Navigator is different. You just want LinkedIn Premium. Sorry, that just caught my eye. Sorry, say it one more time, Jody.
Is LinkedIn a viable networking vehicle, or is it just another job board?
No. So and this is why I'm sorry, this isn't the LinkedIn training, but you really, really want to go watch the video that I've been talking about. Which, by the way, again, in that link I gave, I'll put it in there one more time. In this video, wait, one more time, sorry. In this link, okay, in this link, there's a laundry list of the videos. Go to the one that says using LinkedIn like a pro. Okay, using LinkedIn like a pro. That whole presentation is all about how to leverage LinkedIn as a networking tool. Please understand, everybody, whenever I've been talking today about LinkedIn's job board, I'm just talking about one little feature of LinkedIn. In fact,
Mhm.
let me make this really clear because I think this is worth me sharing my screen real quick so everybody gets it. Okay. So, right. So this is my homepage, right? This is like looks like everybody's homepage. When we've been talking today about LinkedIn's job board, we're talking about this little button right here. When you click on that button, that's the job board. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with this. Put in your, job you're looking for, blah, blah, blah. That is only one little feature of LinkedIn. And frankly, it's not the one I want you to use. You can use it if you want, but I've been trying to steer you away from that job, of that button, because it's like every other job board. Indeed, Career Builder, it's just a job board. What you definitely want to be doing is using the search bar, right? The search bar right up here in the upper left-hand corner. That is going to be how you want to build your network with not just your first level connections, but second levels. And again, there's a whole philosophy I have on that. Go to the video and you'll see all of that. And it's a wonderful, wonderful tool to expand your network, get people to be an internal champion for you when you want to get an interview, to get noticed, meet with people who are your competitive mates, people who do what you do, who can think about jobs that are not right for them, but right for you. I mean, it's endless in terms of what you can do with it. That's why you want to get into LinkedIn, is for the networking purposes, not for the job board.
Should okay, there's one last question, and because then I'll tell you, then if you could stay in chat, I don't know how much time you have for a few minutes afterwards and answer any unanswered questions, but we've answered a lot. We're up to at 11:32, so we're not too terrible. The question is, if there's a bad situation why you left your employer, how, so in this person, their last employer committed wage theft, and it's in legal, it's in legal discussion right now. And so there's obviously no reference available. How do they leave that employer off on their resume? What do they do? Or if they've left their employer in an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah, again, not an one of the classic questions I get. Again, there's no easy answer for that. Obviously, every situation is unique. What I will say is, no, do not leave it off of your employer, off your resume. People are going to wonder what you did for that period of time. What you can just say is something like, you can focus on the future and say, I left my last employer and I transitioned out of my last employer. And now what I'm seeking is try to get them off of the past and get right onto what the future is. You don't have to sit there and dwell on it. Now, if there is anything you are able to say, like maybe position was eliminated, if that's the case, or the organization was going in a different direction and it really made time, it was the right time for me to start considering new things. And so now I'm looking for, and here's how I can make a difference. Just very, very quickly go to the future and not dwell on the past. That's the most generic answer I can give for that kind of situation.
Right. Okay. So we are up with time up is, with Shira. Thank you, Shira, that you answered so many fabulous questions, and we really appreciate the interaction and engagement with our job seekers and you. I think it was just incredible. The comments on your presentation, Shira, you should definitely take a look and read them, because this was just a very informative, discussion.
My pleasure. And by the way, not only are you welcome to reach out to me for the 30-minute call, but feel free to send me a LinkedIn invitation. If you do, please put that you saw me on this JCA group, okay? And I'd be very happy to connect with you.
Right. Wonderful. And Shira, are you able to stay in chat for a few minutes, or are you
for a few? Yeah, I will do my best. And again,
okay.
There's so much in the chat. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to.
I know. Well, we have answered you might have individual questions, but we've gone through pretty much all of the questions that were to the general public.
Yeah. So you know what? If it's okay with everybody, let me just ask you again, because the chat's going to be so full of wonderful comments. If you can just go ahead and just send me an email. I'll put my email address in the chat again. Happy to address whatever I can. Okay.
Wonderful, guys. So again, Shira's putting her email address in there. You could reach out to her, and those with the entrepreneurial spirit, if you're interested in that, in 1099 income, or kind of starting your own business, or kind of exploring that whole concept of going off on your own. her Boomer Works is a great organization and it's free and it's, she's having a great, discussion on branding, this Thursday. So, you can always go onto Boomer Works, is it boomerworks.org or boomerworks.com?
Boomerworks.org. Yeah, BOOMERWORKS.org.
And if you're interested in reaching out to Shira, she has a web page.
Yep.
Always go on that too.
And you know what, if it's okay with you guys, I'm actually gonna put in my career coaching page just because I have a feeling some people might be interested in that. I just wanna draw them to it pretty quickly. So if you're
Okay.
interested in exploring career coaching, this is the link, okay? And it has my services and my rates, and you can go ahead and take a look.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Shira. I mean, it was a great presentation. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure,
And
everyone. All right.
Thank you, Shara. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Have a blessed day, everyone. Take care.
You too. Take
too.
care.
Bye-bye.
And I just have to second, the Boomer Works is a great organization. It's free and it's all on Zoom. Shara has so many different videos on her website there that are really helpful if you are going to be an entrepreneur, to check out, or even some things not, like she did a whole thing on Instagram if you're trying to figure out how to use that for business. So it's a great resource and that's all free. We have reached 11:50. We went a little bit 5 minutes over. Everyone, take a break, stand up, stretch, touch your toes, go to the ladies' room, go to the men's room, come on back, don't disconnect. Go grab something in the kitchen. I'm going to go heat up my tea. It's cold. So everyone, we're going to be back at noon, high noon. All right. And the first employer that's going to start us off is Adventist Healthcare, and they have lots of openings. And then we go into, and I'm going to put this back in chat again. Then we have FAA, the Entrepreneur Source, Porter Care, Seek, Wonders Earling, and the Montgomery County HR. And then we still have another 8 employers in the afternoon. So it's going to be a great afternoon. Go, be off, but come back. Don't disconnect. All right. Leave your volume on so you can hear me say, welcome back. All right, y'all. See you in a minute. See you at noon.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you. I'm going to run to the ladies' room. All right. I'll be right back.
And
Yes.
let's see. Want to stop. I know.